Everybody, long time no see. Took a little hiatus here. We didn't go to Disney World like the Chiefs, but we did take a little bit of a vacation ourselves by getting back into the routine and trying to survive some of this cold weather. But yes, as Evan had mentioned, went up to New York. We're going to continue to make a tradition out of it. It was so much fun. Actually, Sai and I were talking about this, and Ev, we actually said we were coming out of Koreatown. It's like 2 a.m. We had just finished like eating the most delicious food, and Sai and I looked at each other and we said, "This was the best trip of the three so far," and
Agreed.
it just gets
And
better and
it gets
better.
better every year. It gets better
It
every year.
really does. We had so much fun. So, Sai, I'll kick it over to you, man. But honestly, great football season, and we accomplished a lot of our MDS goals too, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, I wanna, make a little plug too. There might be some potential for MDS hosting a little Super Bowl party next year in New York City for any of our viewers and listeners that would like to attend. If we get enough interest, this could very well be a thing next year. So just keep that in mind. Nothing is in stone yet, but just wanna throw it out there because I think it'd be really fun. Nah, dude, it was great. I genuinely look forward to this so much. And I also want to take a minute and just say thank you to our fans because that we were reflecting on that trip, and I think it's honestly such a blessing that we have created this because the reality is I don't know that I'd get to hang out with like two of my best friends like as often as I do after a decade of knowing each other, known since middle school, and here we are 15 years later getting to hang out once a week. And sure, we might have talked here and there, but I don't think we would have been able to have trips like this and stay this close. So got to thank our fans for giving us that. So thank you guys very much because it's been a third amazing season, and we're just going to keep it rolling. And hopefully we get even more success, whether it's with bets or just in the process of getting more guys to tune in. So appreciate you guys. And of course I had to plug the bets because we definitely should mention that. So E, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, that's what pays the bills, Si. So, we
Indeed.
love all the support, though. Maybe one day we'll have a second income stream.
Would
But
be
yeah,
great.
no, echo what you guys are saying. Just a great year. What we put out, Zach, you said this will be 18 episodes for the calendar NFL year. So a new high, 110 or whatever subscribers. So yeah, appreciate
Indeed.
all the support. But if nothing else, I guess we'll jump into Super Bowl. We got to dig back here a little, 3 weeks, but boring first half. I thought overall, unfortunately, and not just boring, but like I didn't think either team was playing particularly well. You had tons of uncharacteristic mistakes, McCaffrey and Pacheco fumbling, amongst other things, but and then just an unbelievable second half. The Niners let the Chiefs stick around, and then the Chiefs did what they do, which is come back, and if you give Mahomes the ball, he's going to end up winning it. And then overtime was epic, leading to tons of successful betting for us, having tons of overs, but also I think a lot of people out there who just kind of blindly take the overs, and overtime won them a lot of money. So that's my little short recap. But yeah, just a great game.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Usher. Great halftime show too. I was nervous that was going to be the best part of the game after that first half. Oh, a little hot take from Zach over there. All right. Teach
That
their
was a
own.
subpar halftime show.
All right,
Hmm
that might have to be a short right
It
there.
was. I mean, it was cool seeing him on roller skates. That was great. But outside of that, wasn't feeling it. I mean, his famous song is "Yeah," and I was saying no the whole time. Just no. Get us to the second half. Get us to the second half. I don't want to hear Usher anymore.
I
And
wish I
plus, I
knew.
think Justin Bieber ruined it too because if Justin and Usher came out, I actually think I would have appreciated it a lot more given their history. So that was a little unfortunate. But obviously, I give respect to Jay Biebs for declining, respectfully. He probably just didn't want the pressure. So I get it.
This man's talking about
No,
the guy that wasn't there instead of talking about the 50-year-old man that was strutting his stuff, dancing, like looking great. He brought out Alicia Keys, he brought out Lil John, he brought out all these studs, and
Little
you
John.
talk about you got to talk about Justin Bieber. I get it. Listen, I love Justin Bieber. I no disrespect. I get it. And to be fair, it's subjective. But this is a good topic. What do you? I'm gonna put you guys on the spot. We'll go a little spontaneous with this. What are your top three favorite halftime shows you've ever seen in Super Bowl history?
I don't really know if I have a list on this one.
Give me number one. Give me the one that's the most memorable to you.
I don't think anyone, I mean, is necessarily more memorable than another to me. I think it really, like, I was going to say to Zach, like, most people's, like, how they feel the halftime show was typically just aligns with, like, how much they like that person's music. So, like, the one in LA a few years ago was maybe the one that was most, like, I guess, relatable to me, and that I actually, like, listened to a lot of that music, like, a while back. Like, Usher, I've never really listened to Usher, like, so I don't know if one sticks out more than the other. I know there were some rough ones there in the middle there, like Timberlake's was awful, like The Weeknd's wasn't very good. Maroon 5. Yeah, I don't know if I have a list on this one, to be honest. I'll put LA at number one for me, but I don't know. That's just because I like the music the best, I think.
Was that the Snoop Dogg one?
Eminem, baby. Yes,
Just with
sir.
the whole-
That was the best. Where Eminem was up, or 50 Cent was upside down, and
This
it was
meme
just like,
ever.
what a crazy appearance from him. Yeah, that was the best,
That was
hands
that.
down. I mean, not even close.
No
I think of
doubt.
Rihanna's. Rihanna's is even better than Usher's, and she was pregnant, so that just goes
Yeah,
to show
I
you.
think it's personal taste. I can see where you're coming from. I think if you're not into the whole like dancey kind of atmosphere, then I could see why you wouldn't like it. But I feel like if you're gonna put on a dance performance for a Super Bowl, he was up there. But people like Bruno Mars also set the bar very high too. Like
Ooh, true.
we've had
His
some
was
great
good.
ones. But of course, Shady's gonna be number one. You guys know I love my boy. So, but no, a little tangent, but I like that. I'm glad we had a little discussion for our not so football fans who end up watching the Super Bowl for all the extracurriculars. I'm also glad that it wasn't all about Taylor Swift. She got a few cameos. She got her moments. My girl Blake Lively got her moments because she was right next to her, who I had to give a special shout out to. And then it was game time. It was Travis Kelce. Unfortunately, being a little too aggressive with his coach at time, but they made up. They seem happy, so ultimately they won. With that being said, stop betting against the Chiefs, man. I don't know how many times I got to tell you this, Zach. I don't get it. Stop betting against the Chiefs. They keep doing you dirty every year, every Super Bowl, every playoff. Stop betting against the Chiefs, man. That's all I got to say.
Oh, I know. But even though the Chiefs won, they had to survive like three different fourth and so-and-sos to keep the drive in play. And if they didn't convert on any of them, the game would have been over. Now, given that was two of them came in overtime, so they were already down a field goal at that point. But yes, I will have to take a very serious look at the Chiefs because one thing that is not talked about enough, I mean, obviously Mahomes did Mahomes things. He's the best ever. He's the best player in the NFL by far. Don't deny any of that. But what I think is really interesting is Spagnuolo coached himself a great game. And so I go back to Evan's point where he said the first half was slow. And Kyle Shanahan will literally write play by play how the first two drives are going to go. Because that's where they, try to accumulate points and then the 49ers hold that lead. That's what they've been used to all season. But Spagnuolo came in and defended the house, and it made it really difficult for the 49ers, and that was why they started to struggle, and then the Chiefs capitalized on that. So I will have to take an honest look at that, but I'm not thrilled with the offense still. I mean, I think that the Chiefs will continue to sputter next year. Now, they sputtered the entire regular season.
They won when it mattered. Why are you still talking about the regular season? I don't know how we're still defending this take. You came out in the middle of the year. I'm not going to be nice today. You came out in the middle of the year and you said Travis Kelce sucks. You said he's washed. You said Mahomes isn't as good as he used to be this year. You said this. They don't have to be like a top 3 scoring offense to win games. They proved that to you. They knew they have a good defense and they made the plays when they count. And this isn't even about you or me, Zach or Evan. This is me just talking about the Chiefs in general. I have this propensity for now, just like when you make the plays when they count. You know what I mean? It's like, when it went into overtime, did any of us doubt that if Mahomes got the ball, he was going to score? Like, or even
No, none of us doubted that. I'll give you that for sure.
He's just like, he's like a robot. Like, you just know he's going to find a way. Like that insane, like, overtime where it was 4th down and he ran an RPO and got like 10 yards on a 4th and 1. I mean, like that's just like
Oh yeah.
that's goat stuff right there. Like it's not like he's a runner normally. He knows how to, but I don't know. That's kind of my point. But I get what you're saying. I agree with you too in a way. Like as much as I love the Chiefs, they need to do something about that offense because you can't just go into next year with status quo and make it that difficult for yourself. Like, can they win with that team? Sure. Do they need to win with that team? Hopefully not. So I'm with you there. That's a fair point.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of it is during the regular season, like they know they're going to be there at the end, so they like spent the whole year trying to figure out which pieces were the ones that were going to work, specifically at the wide receiver position, and they didn't really find anyone. They did find Rashi Rice, which was huge, but otherwise they didn't really find much help. But
Yeah.
I do think, I mean, I don't have the cap space in front of me, but like their defense is so good and so young. I would imagine that they're going to have a lot more flexibility. Not to jump ahead of ourselves, I know we're going to talk about maybe next year a little later on, but and I know Patrick's going to try and restructure his contract a little bit to give them some room. Like I feel like they're going to have the room to get another big name receiver, or maybe like a tier 2 kind of guy to go alongside Rashi Rice. Like I mean, like Hollywood Brown was rumored in like trades a while ago. He's a free agent. Like that would be a nice like speed addition on the outside, kind of that Tyreek Hill role. I mean, I know he's smaller. But I don't know. I feel like this was maybe the easiest year to get the Chiefs, easiest from a what their roster looks like standpoint. And they do have to bring back Snead, which won't be cheap. But
Chris
otherwise,
Jones.
man, I feel yeah, true, Chris Jones.
That's gonna
But otherwise, yeah. Maybe it might be tough to get them both back. But I don't know, man. I feel like they're going to be in good shape moving forward, just with some of the draft and develop they've done on the defensive end of the ball. And guys potentially restructuring their contracts a little bit. And as long as Andy's there, like it's not just Pat, it's Andy is obviously one of the greatest coaches of all time. So
Yeah, I could see them. Like, I think they're going to have to re-sign Chris Jones, assuming he wants to keep playing football. Like, he was maybe like an unsung hero in that game because he didn't have a high sack total, but in every big play at the end of the game, he was in Brock Purdy's face, making it almost impossible for him to make the throw or making it more difficult. And I mean, Chris Jones is Chris Jones, so they're gonna have to re-sign him if he can stay. If they lose him, like then I'll agree with you guys. That's an absolute game changer. But they got to keep him. What I see happening is I think most likely they probably keep Chris Jones, and there's a pretty likely possibility that Snead just gets a bag from another team, and they're not going to want to give him that bag because they already have so many guys they're paying, and they'll probably have to go a different direction, and that money might go to a receiver, and then they might try to fill that with a draft spot or one of their depth guys. So we'll see. Snead will be a big loss, but as long as they have McDuffie and Jones anchoring that defense, they should be all right. So it'll be interesting though.
Actually, speaking on that, so what I was looking up was the most attractive NFL free agents for this season. So from wide receiver, who would you, if you're T. Higgins, do you think T. Higgins has a higher likelihood of signing a bag and going to a team like Carolina? And like the team is still many, many miles from being relatively good.
Tagging him, I think. So I don't even think he's
Oh,
gonna
they're gonna tag him this
yeah,
year?
they cannot. I think he's
Oh,
gonna be
wow,
like,
that's huge.
and it's like $24 million. Like it's a big franchise tag too. They really
Oh,
like Higgins in
so
Cincinnati.
let's look at like a guy like Mike Evans on like a 2-year deal where he's
think
gonna
he's
ball
staying.
out. You
I
think
think
he's
he's
gonna stay in
staying.
Tampa?
I think he's been there so long. Like I think
Has it already been
they're
confirmed
gonna,
though?
they're gonna get there's I think a lot of noise on it. So I mean, they're keeping Baker too. Like I would not anticipate Evans being on the market. I mean, you never know, but unless he has some team he really wants to go to. But
I mean, they did just make the playoffs, so it seems like people are being very speculative because they're like, oh, I want to see Mike Evans with Mahomes, but the reality is, if you make the playoffs with your quarterback and you were a vital piece of making the playoffs, why would you leave? Like that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm with you guys there. Yeah.
Now, what
wide
about
receiver
Pittman then?
Pittman's
it's
staying.
gonna be hard to get Pittman from us. We're either gonna franchise him or we're gonna pay him a lot of money. We have one of the highest cap spaces in the NFL. The wide receiver market's gonna be so bad, dude. It's gonna be like Hollywood, Gabe Davis, and then everybody else. There might be someone
Hang
I'm
on.
missing in there.
There's one guy, and I think this guy could actually be perfect for Kansas City. Calvin Ridley with
Oh, I forgot about Calvin.
I think he's got,
I
I
agree.
wouldn't say he's got attitude problems, but he's clearly got off the field issues.
Yeah.
And I think that Andy Reid could bring him in. He's very talented and actually do what he needs to do. He's separate from Kadarius Toney. I almost want to like loop them in the same equation because like they have their history of off the field issues. They both are like unbelievable with the ball. They're super elusive. but they are very different because Calvin Ridley's a possession receiver, and Patrick Mahomes can work with that because MVS is not a possession receiver. Rashid Rice came in and was that staple for that team. And so I think that Calvin Ridley could actually be a really, really nasty signing for Kansas City. I'm actually going to go ahead and call that now. I think Calvin Ridley is going to be a Kansas City Chief.
I
It
think
just
that's
makes complete sense.
I think him on the Chiefs would be absolutely incredible. I actually think that's a genius idea, Zach. I don't know if they're going to be able to sign him though, because he's probably going to get a lot of money. Like, I know he didn't have the
He had a
greatest
bad
season.
season.
It was still like decent. Like, it wasn't like terrible. And the reality is, you saw the talent was still there for Ridley. Like, you saw the games where he had like the massive games. That's why I don't even think it's fair to compare him to Tony, because he's way better than Tony. Like, he's actually, even prior to being on the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the Falcons, when Ryan was older and everything, he had an amazing like first year or two there. So I think Ridley's ceiling is way higher. And I feel, and with Patrick Mahomes, like, Ridley could easily be like a 1,400-yard receiver. I have no doubt about that. The issue with in Jacksonville was
Mm.
Trevor Lawrence could not support multiple receivers with that offense. It just wasn't going to happen. Like it just wasn't the perfect situation with that. So I believe he'd be a great signing. I still think Ridley will get like at least 20 million a year, though, no doubt. Like, I
Ooh, I don't know about
you
that.
gotta look at the market though. Like, there's no one. If Pittman
Yeah.
resigns, he's the best available receiver. I think better than Hollywood Brown, and someone's gonna pay him. It's this Christian Kirk situation all over again. Like, and he's young. What is he, like 25, 26? Like,
Yeah,
he's
he's
gonna
not
get
super
paid.
old yet. That's true.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
well,
a good point.
they're saying 2 year, 32 million. So 17, 16,
17.
17.
Yeah.
Si, you're closer than I thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if the Chiefs would be willing to deal with that, but it does go to show you there's going to be a lot of these teams that change. I mean, San Francisco 49ers have already released and they've already started their free agent carousel already. So it's amazing how one team, they have that opportunity and they squandered it. It was a great game, great Super Bowl game, but these teams will change and it's a completely new team the next year. So it's hard to believe.
Where do y'all think Saquon goes? The Giants already said they're not going to tag him. So
Yeah,
Hmm.
the running back market is the one that's going to be interesting because Pollard isn't getting tagged either. So like all those guys are genuinely going to be available. Say the buzz on Saquon, L.A. man. Harbaugh made a comment about him, didn't he?
that
I mean, they all kind of did, but
well, Eckler's contract is up, right?
Eckler's gone too.
Yeah, maybe they
Yeah.
replace Eckler with. Oh my gosh, if Harbaugh can actually coach like he did back with the 49ers, that would be nasty. Him and
Would it?
Justin with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams coming back. Oh
Mike's
my.
gone.
Oh,
Mike's gone. I believe he is a free agent as well.
Dang,
wait,
Josh
what? No,
Jacobs
no,
is
they
a
gave him
free
a
agent.
contract.
Whew.
Didn't they
Did
sign a
they
con-
pay him?
They gave him a contract extension last year, didn't they? It was a big one too.
I don't think so.
It was like, wasn't it like 5 years, like 80 million
No,
or
yeah,
something?
you're right. Three
Yeah,
for 60, 2022.
yeah.
Well,
He
he
got,
won't be on the field either way, but
yeah, but no,
um,
he should be back by sometime next year.
oh, he'll get hurt again though. He's always hurt.
By the way, you know what I think? I think he's going to Dallas.
Saquon.
Yeah, I think Dallas lets Tony Pollard walk, and I think I think Mike McCarthy and them are so desperate for success after a season where they had an opportunity to do it and didn't do it. They're gonna you know, be on Jerry Jones's case to go make a big signing, and it'll be Saquon because Saquon, because Tony was not as much as we hyped up Tony coming into last year. Without Ezekiel Elliott, Tony was kind of a struggle. Like, I mean, he had some decent moments, but you could see he couldn't put the team on his back when they needed him to. If you add him to CD Lamb and the tight end, and you got Jake Ferguson and you got a Dak Prescott playing the way that he does, that would be nasty. And it's not like they need a defense; they already got it.
Saquon is meant to go
Well,
to Dallas because he's such an internet personality, and he's garnered so much success. I mean, I remember watching him from Penn State, and he was electric in college. But the problem is Ezekiel Elliott, and he kind of ruined that for Dallas because he was really the overarching running back that got clearly overpaid, which reset the running back market value. And ever since, Zeke got dealt, and then got dealt a ton of cash, and then he just did terrible. But it did terrible in terms of like his contract. I mean, when you're making like north of 10 mil a year, I mean that's a problem. So I just think because Dallas had made that experiment and it didn't work out, they're going to be afraid to repeat mistakes that kind of put them in that situation. So I do think that Saquon Barkley is meant to be a Dallas Cowboy. He's got that big aurora about him. He's a great, talented player, but I just don't think Dallas wants to repeat a second mistake.
Well, Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry got paid in their last contracts, and I think both of those teams are very happy they paid them, right? Like McCaffrey was one of the leading factors to a very built out team of them getting to the Super Bowl. If you think about it, he was the reason when after they were already in place to be very good, then they get McCaffrey and that puts them over the top, right? Because they already had a good foundation. Dallas is in a similar spot. When they re-signed Zeke, they weren't like they didn't have this level of success, right? And it's similar to like Derek is a different story because Derek was like he was carrying their team to the playoffs a lot of times with Tannehill being mid. But I don't know. I think recently the running backs are proving that at least on these shorter term, higher value deals, that it's worth it. Because I mean, another example, Jonathan Taylor, we finally signed him. Like you saw, the man literally almost beat Houston by himself last game. If he didn't get hurt, like we had a really good shot. Like these guys, like and Saquon's versatile. I think Zeke's problem was he was already on his he was already getting tired at that point. So I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think Saquon's my opinion of Saquon. Like I think he is exceptional, and I think he's been stuck on a terrible team and has still somehow found a way to be a top 5 running back. I can't imagine what he's going to do on a good team.
Yeah, I'm sticking with LA. I don't know if I see Dallas for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because he was playing in the division, which just makes it feel wrong. But
I don't think you want to see Dallas is more like it.
Exactly.
The point about Dallas's defense, though, is Dallas lost their entire defensive coaching staff pretty much. So, let's see what that defense looks like under a new regime. But another running back, Derrick Henry, Baltimore, lock. It's an F lock.
I would love that.
That's a gimme.
Isn't that going to be nasty?
That would be so sweet, especially with him in the black and purple, those all black jerseys. Oh my gosh.
He looks like
plus,
a Raider.
I mean, talk about coming full circle, right? I mean, I remember he was in a game against the Baltimore Ravens where he literally turned Earl Thomas around, with a stiff arm. So I'm not sure if you guys remember this. He stiff armed Earl Thomas so bad. Earl Thomas looked like he was a lead blocker for Derrick Henry. And so coming full circle, right, turning it around the bend here, it would make sense why Derrick Henry would finish his career in Baltimore. But I think in all seriousness, I think with him and Lamar Jackson, because what's becoming evident with Baltimore is they need that added piece to really take them to the finish line. They've got good coaching. They've got a good offensive scheme because it's unusual, it's original. But I think teams in the playoffs are figuring that out, and they just clearly can't get there. So they need to bring in a big tool, and they need to overpay for it. So I actually really like that landing spot for Henry.
Yeah, I think especially because he's not going to have to run the way he did with Tennessee. Like he's obviously getting older, so you can't expect him to be like the workhorse that he was with Tennessee, getting thousands of carries throughout the course of a season. So it's the perfect fit because then they have their change of pace backs like Keaton Mitchell coming back and Justice Hill and guys like that who are really good, secondary options. And then you also have Lamar running the ball. So between all of those available, that running game is going to be nasty. My only concern with that, and don't get me wrong, I think it'd be a good signing for them. And I don't think he's going to be crazy expensive because he's older. My only concern with that is I don't think it fixes the problem. The problem was that when they lost to the Chiefs, they stopped the run game and to a certain extent, or they forced them to throw the ball and they couldn't beat them to the pass game. Like they got absolutely shut down in the pass game for the most part. So the real thing is hopefully Zay Flowers continues to develop because he looked amazing in that game. And if he can just continue to develop, they just need to improve on that pass game a little bit, but maybe getting Derek gives them a little more play action. They got to figure out a way to be able to do that when they're forced to do it though in the big moments.
Yeah, I do think they could probably use. I mean, Beckham's obviously gone. Not that he had a big impact this year, but that was kind of the plan, right? So they probably could use another receiver. So, but I also I don't know. I think they have enough in house to do it. I just thought they played literally one of their worst games of the year against the Chiefs, who don't make mistakes, and they still probably would have, or at least had a very good shot to win the game if Flowers doesn't fumble at the one, amongst other things, right? So I think they have what they need. So I disagree that they need another piece, but I think Henry's perfect there. It's almost like the Gus Edwards role of goal line, on steroids, but he's also obviously your lead back. That's just bowling guys over, and like I said, they already have kind of the scat back guys in place, and the thing about their receivers is they don't really need elite receivers because the whole point is that Lamar just creates so much time that like it's impossible for the DBs to cover anyone.
Yeah.
Now, and they obviously have Andrews and like good tight ends and like Flowers.
Andrews,
like
that's a good
I said,
point.
is
Good
a stud. So I would lean like get Henry in there, and then maybe you bring in another depth receiver because you'll need bodies. But maybe that's the play.
That team will be absolutely disgusting if they get Henry and they don't lose much on the defense. Oh my gosh! And I think Zay Flowers is like that guy's on his way. I mean, you guys know how much I'm about him. I was tooting his horn.
You called him. You called him for the first part of the season. Trivia you guys saw. Shout out Michael Dolan. His draft review was fantastic. I actually forwarded it to a couple of my friends, and he had the Falcons actually trading up and getting Jaden Daniels. So if Washington goes with Drake May, I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to last much longer. I think there are definitely going to be some teams that will trade up for that second or third quarterback.
Here's the concern though. I think the only way that are you saying if Washington goes up to number 1 and takes Caleb Williams?
No, I think the big pick that would require Atlanta to jump up and trade would be Drake May at 2 to Washington.
Yeah, but I don't think New England is trading their pick. They need a quarterback, and
a lot of people are saying New England's going to trade their pick.
Yeah, but a lot of people were saying that, and then another report came out after that said New England said we need a quarterback and we need to address that. So I think people are throwing up a lot of smokescreens. But I personally, especially with Belichick and everybody gone, them starting a new regime, I would be willing to put my money on them keeping that pick because you get the number 3 pick and you have the consensus number 3 player at quarterback available to you. I think it's gonna be very hard for them to say no unless they completely dislike Jaden Daniels. Like unless it's like absolutely no way, like we don't like Jaden Daniels. But it seems like everyone really likes Jaden Daniels. I don't know. I'd be shocked if New England didn't take him. I just think I think it'd be really
I'm
tough.
not going to say what I want to say to that one. What I'll predict is that one of those 3 teams trades out, and I think it could, with varying degrees of probability. Obviously, New England being the most likely, could be any of them. But there's going to be some kind of shakeup in that top three quarterback. I think for sure. That's going to surprise us.
I'm going with the house. I think those 3 are going 1, 2, 3 in that order to those teams, especially with the way the NFL is operating with cap space and the way money is changing with quarterbacks and with how much success young quarterbacks have had recently and how many teams are winning with young quarterbacks. Like I just like if I'm a GM, maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm boring. I'm like, if I am finally in a spot to get who I think is a franchise quarterback, I'm doing it because I'm not going to go get stuck in purgatory. Because if I'm the Patriots, who the heck am I taking? What am I going to go another season with Mac Jones? Who am I replacing him with? Am I going to go get like Derek Carr or like an old ass Kirk Cousins? Like what do you do if you're the Patriots at the quarterback if you trade out of that pick? Like, what do you just tank and hope you get it again next year? I don't know. There's like, or if the Commanders, like, who are the Commanders going to do? Run it back with Sam Howell? Like, I don't. And the Bears are the only one that if they just are like, wow, I really like Justin Fields and I really think we can win with Justin Fields, then they keep the pick and they re-sign Justin Fields, or if they trade the pick, re-sign Justin Fields. But even them, I take Caleb Williams because you get the cap saving. Caleb Williams is probably better than Justin Fields. You don't have to sign Justin Fields to a long-term contract. And then the Falcons or the Steelers or somebody else give you a second-round pick for Justin Fields, and you still have the number 9 overall pick in the draft, along with a bunch of other picks later on. Like it just like rationally speaking, I just don't know how anybody does that.
The Bears' risk, I think, is no longer, or not risk, but I think they're definitely planning on taking Caleb Williams. Their risk is, does Caleb Williams want to play for them? Because if he says, man, I'm gonna go play with Cliff again, like that would be their problem. I don't think that's gonna happen. I put the odds at Caleb to Chicago in the 90% and above, but I think they're definitely planning on taking him. But you never know with this guy, man. He's made comments before. We know he's boys with Cliff. Could happen, and he's from DC. I think there's an element of possibility there for sure.
What do you guys think the backup plan is for the Commanders or the Patriots if they trade their pick away?
Well, it's not a backup plan. That would be the first plan, to be clear, because they each are in this spot. Well, I think Adam Peters and how he built the 49ers, right? Like, he didn't build with a quarterback. He built with elite offensive line, added the skill position players, and just had a game manager. So that's why I think there's a chance that he could try and do something similar, trade back a couple spots, take Joe Alt or Olu
Mm.
Fashanu, who I know is dropping a little bit, and build up the offensive line. Try Sam Howell out for another year if you want to bring it better, whatever you want to do. But I just think with how he has, built his prior teams, I could see it happening. But I mean, I still expect him to, stick and pick. But that's just why, kind of comparing to some of his other situations, could see it.
Backup plan, it could always be Adam, or it could be Cam Newton, because I'm not sure if you guys saw the raw athleticism that he displayed fighting off three assailants. I mean, I don't know what they were doing, but you do not want to mess with Cam Newton. That dude single-handedly rushed, received, and passed for over 4,000 yards consistently year over year. So yeah, that was a bad beat. That should definitely be on Scott Van Pelt's bad beat if it isn't already. But
That's
no,
crazy.
in all seriousness, I think that what's exciting for Washington is the fact that they're actually going to draft a quarterback in the first round, because they have built their infrastructure, like offensive line, defensive line, failed to trade guys at the appropriate times. Who is Deron Payne? I think they should have gotten rid of him when his I guess trade value was the highest a couple years ago. They ultimately didn't. So now Chase Young and Montez Sweat are gone. So like, I'm not talking about the mismanagement of Washington. I want to focus on that, but what I do want to say is they drafted those guys. They drafted the correct way, but I think that Washington deserves hope, and hope is a number, one of the first quarterbacks off the board, and they have the second overall pick. So instead of going DN like they did last time they were in this position with Chase Young, I think that it will be really exciting for them to draft a guy like Drake May, or the kid from LSU, things like that. So
And I also say this because I agree with you, Zach. I also say this because this isn't your prototypical, in my opinion, this isn't your prototypical year for quarterbacks. Like, I believe this is like one of the best quarterback draft classes we've had in years, at least at the top three. I don't know
mhm.
about depth, but definitely in the top three. Because I mean, you tell me the last time we had three guys that were with this hype. We have the Heisman coming off a Heisman
It,
season, having an amazing year. Drake May, who last year would have probably gone number one if he was eligible for the draft over any of those
True.
guys. And then on top of that, you have Caleb Williams, who is literally like one of the most hyped prospects in the history of the NFL. I'm not saying that means they're going to succeed, but I am saying that like clearly these guys have things that make them as high. And Jaden Daniels probably could have gone number one last year too, because he just won the Heisman. So like you get three guys that could have been number one picks on any given year at the top three. Like that is such a hard time to be like, I'm going to trade. Admittedly, maybe you get more value for that trade, but the flip side of that also is like we've seen too many teams wait too long to try to get a quarterback and get absolutely burnt by it. So I don't know. That's my personal take.
it reminds me a lot of the like Justin Herbert, Tua, and
Yeah,
Burrow draft for that
yeah,
very reason. Because
Definitely.
like at that time it was Chase Young. This time it's Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a generational talent at the receiver position. But you have these amazing quarterbacks on the board. I forget who after Chase went before, because Herbert was four, right? So someone went three. I forget who that was, but it reminds me a lot of that draft for sure.
good question. Was it
Should
not?
we look it up?
Was Chase two? Was Herbert
Yeah,
four?
I believe Herbert was four and two was five.
Interesting. That's a
Uh,
really good question. This is going to drive me crazy.
2020.
No, no, no.
Look
Tua
it
was
up.
picked before Herbert.
No, it was wait.
I don't think so.
Herbert was picked
No,
after
you might be
Tua.
right.
Do I have that backwards? Yeah.
You might be
Hmm.
right.
Oh, there's two guys. Oh, yeah, it was 5 and 6. Actually, you're right. Two of five, but Herbert was six.
Who was
You
three?
guys want a second to play trivia, or you?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
play
yeah.
some
Let's play
trivia.
trivia. Let's play
Play some
trivia.
trivia.
All right.
Okay, so we went. There was QB at one. We got Chase Young at two, and then we're trying to figure out 3, 4 right now, right?
Yep.
Which year is
I'll
this again?
2020. I'll start
2020.
giving hints after a few seconds here.
Okay.
Wait, so this is the Joe Burrow draft, right?
Yep.
Burrow, Chase Young, and we're looking for the third guy.
And the fourth guy. There's two now.
2020.
2020.
Jamar
You
was
want
fourth. Jamar was
that's
four.
that's the
No.
year after because
Oh
he's
yeah, you're
Was
Burrow.
it
right.
corners?
Do you want positions or teams first?
Give us positions.
Ooh, three was a corner, four was a tackle,
Oh,
offensive
Derek
tackle.
Stingley was third.
No, because Derek
No,
Stingley was the Sauce Gardner Stingley draft, where it went
yeah,
Stingley then
you're
Sauce Gardner.
you're way
Um,
too recent.
hold on, we're gonna get this. You said it was a corner and an offensive lineman.
Yep.
2020. Who came out the same year as Joe Burrow? Was it
You want
Alabama?
another mini hint?
Was it an
No.
Alabama?
No Alabama. Your mini hint is they're both terrible. I know one of them is terrible and not really relevant. I don't believe the other guy's any good either. So
We might need the teams then if they're terrible. I don't know if we're gonna
And
think.
you
Oh,
want
I know,
NFL?
I know who the guy is. Leatherwood. Leatherwood was 4.
no,
Oh.
Zach, you are way off. The NFL teams are Lions and Giants.
Oh,
Zach, it's your favorite
Okuda.
person, bro. Okuda.
Oh,
Jeff
Kuda.
Okuda.
Giants.
Oh, Andrew Thomas.
Andrew, no. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
There you
Tom.
go.
that's who it was.
Jeff Okuda. Zach, we were all over. Me and Zach loved Okuda. We thought he was
I
gonna
still
be so
do.
good.
I still do, man. I still do.
Is he still in Atlanta?
He somehow still is important.
Damn, I really thought Okuda was going to be good. Damn.
Love it.
That's some good trivia.
Should we? What else were we gonna do? We were gonna do things we got wrong this year. We're already at 40 minutes or so. Should we quickly?
What are some bad beats for us this year, guys? What are some bad beats for us?
Um,
I feel like last
I
year
can
was easy
start.
for
I
us.
can start. I was way too high on Dallas this year. I was way too high, man. I get caught up. I get swept into the offensive talent that they have, the ability for them to win at home consistently. They would destroy teams when they were playing as a collective unit. Saw a lot of 40-3 games and 40-13 games, things like that were just blowouts right at the start. So I thought that Dallas carrying a home field advantage would have actually made quite an impact in the playoffs. Obviously, I was wrong. So I'll start off there by humbling myself and say that Dallas was not one of my strongest suits.
they were a really good team, though, Zach. They were a really good team. But mine would be probably Baltimore. Although when it came down to the end, my take was pretty accurate on Baltimore. Although for the whole season, it was pretty rough. So good job in the comments, you all these trolls that were on that short from a while ago. But hey, when it came down to the end,
This is tough for me because I had many like week to week, right? Like I know I had a bunch of bad beats week to week, but I feel like the bigger team, like the bigger takes I had paid off, like the Chiefs and the 49ers making the Super Bowl. Like I thought Lamar and the Ravens were gonna be really good and that paid off. I think the biggest ones honestly got to be like if I'm focusing on overall one is just I don't think I believed in Jared Goff enough. Like Zach was spot on about like a year ago, and this is another year of him proving me wrong. Like, do I think he's a top 5? No, but he's definitely like a top 10 quarterback, and he proved his worth this year and took his team, to their first playoff win in decades. And I think the Lions deserve so much credit for their success this year. And I think I believed that maybe they'd be a playoff team, but I didn't know that I believed that they would have the success that they did in the playoffs. So I probably slept on the Lions a little bit too much as I love their players. Yeah, that's probably my big one.
any other honorable mentions for you, Zach?
I'll say a free agent that I'm really disappointed in terms of their performance because I actually thought this team was going to be really good with him was Derek Carr and the Saints. If Derek Carr played that, well, I guess back then it was the Oakland Raiders at the time when he brought that team to 12-4 and he's more than a game manager. And when he was, accuracy is usually not a problem. He's like a field general in the sense of he's got like those Matt Ryan qualities, like the leadership qualities, but he has the arm, but I don't know. Just for some reason, it didn't come together. And it seemed like he lost the locker room too a little bit. Like teams were like really, players were really excited with him coming in and him running this organization. Their defense was still viable enough to perform and, hold them to, 20 points. Like, how can you not score more than 20 points game over game if you're Derek Carr and that offense with Alvin Kamara and, a lot of the guys that they have. So I was a little disappointed in him and, maybe he'll turn it around next year, but very unfortunate. I thought the Saints with a high performing Derek Carr would have easily won the playoffs and maybe even made an indent in the playoffs too.
Zach was so close to saying Michael Thomas, I could feel it, but
I know, I had to stop, man. I had to stop.
They got Chris Olave.
They have a really good receiver.
And they had
I wanted to say Thomas
Snead
so
too.
bad.
they had Snead too, so they had a couple guys. Yeah,
No, that's a really good one. Carr's one for me, less so this year, but like I've been high on him in past years. And boy, he's awful. That was a very weird situation. That was a really good one. I guess Brock Purdy is. I mean, he ended up, having a pretty good year, and he played pretty well in the Super Bowl. I still think he missed a couple key throws in the Super Bowl. I guess we didn't talk about earlier that, like,
Yeah.
similar to Jimmy Garoppolo a handful of years ago, like everyone's really high on how he played in the Super Bowl. And he was, good. He was good, but I thought, a big difference in this game was a couple of those key throws that obviously Mahomes always makes and he doesn't. But I'll take a minor L on Brock Purdy. I thought the Giants would be good too. That's a bad one.
Yeah, it's tough.
They were not. And then the Rams, I'll say the Rams were way better than I thought.
Hey, let's go Rams, baby.
We'll give you that side.
Rams.
We'll give you that
I
one,
got-
man.
I think I
We were
got
saying
pretty
that
lucky.
from the start.
I think I got pretty lucky with my playoff teams this year. They seem to really come through for me. But one that I definitely had a really bad take on, and this is probably like the community as a whole, like the football community as a whole, is Baker Mayfield, dude. When the Buccaneers signed Baker Mayfield, I was like, I guess they're just punting. They're just giving a guy a contract. I thought there was zero chance in heck that they were doing anything meaningful. Like I know that division sucked, but I was like, oh, they're gonna finish in last, or be like right there with the Panthers or whatever it is. Oh my gosh. Or maybe Bryce Young was also a bad take because I said future Hall of Famer, but we
That's
touched
bad.
on that many times. But to be fair though, I'm still not out on that take. So you guys can roast me for years to come if it doesn't happen. But I still think Bryce Young will be good because he hasn't had the opportunity to be. But we've talked about that enough. But I'll say Baker Mayfield. I genuinely was roasting him before the season started. I was like, I'm like, what are they doing? Why wouldn't they just move on? Why wouldn't they try something new? Like, I was so unfair to Baker Mayfield. And you know what? Props to him. Like, I'm not saying he was like elite, but he did what he needed to do to put his team in a position to win. And they got to the playoffs and they made some noise. And you got to respect that. So, shout out to him.
Baker was a stud.
Actually, I think one of your worst ones was CJ Stroud early in the year, more than any of the other ones you mentioned.
What did you say?
What did I
Remember
say
early-
about CJ Stroud?
Remember early in the year when we were talking about the Texans and Zach was like, I feel like people are too high on CJ Stroud. Like, I don't know why people are picking the Texans so much too.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's worse than the other. Your other ones were fair. In my opinion.
That was a bad one. That was a bad one because CJ Stroud not only commands the locker room, I mean, he's like the face of that franchise and he knows it. And players like who normally would give rookies a hard time, when you have the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year on the same team, drafted
Crazy.
2 and 3 at back to back, that's something special, man. I was completely wrong about CJ Stroud. And CJ, if you're listening to the pod, man, you're the man.
Yeah,
Keep
you
doing
did.
you and subscribe.
Dog, I'm a Colts fan. I hate how much I like this guy. I'm like, I don't. It's like I find myself wanting to root for him, and I'm like, but you're going against me for the next decade plus. It sucks. I hate how much I like him. He's so good, and he's such a good dude too. It's like I don't know. It's like so easy to root for him. But yeah, I didn't want to
I
give
love
him.
CJ.
Also, one quick take. I think I'm so out on Kyle Shanahan hate right now. Like for people that were coming out trying to rip him for the Super Bowl. Like, how on earth are people ripping Kyle Shanahan? Christian McCaffrey's fumble and the muffed punt are not his fault. He coached just as well as Andy Reid did, and it came down to Patrick Mahomes outplaying him. That's my opinion. That's my honest opinion because their defense played well too, and a lot of people were giving him and Wilkes crap going into the postseason, and they got all the way to the end and they lost in overtime on a touchdown going against the future GOAT. Like I don't know how like people are trying to wreck Shanahan as if he called some bad game.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because it was one of the things that we missed, I think, about the actual game. I think he coached a good game, but the overtime decision, and not just the decision, but that you didn't prepare for that situation.
That
As
was-
like so many of his players, like his veteran players, said, "Oh no, we didn't even talk about it at all." Whereas the Chiefs have talked about it like on a weekly
Mhm.
basis throughout the playoffs, and like,
Point slide dick.
yeah, that's amazing.
That was great.
Like that is as
Yeah.
unacceptable as it gets.
Yeah.
Now, the actual decision, I think, is incredibly difficult and probably tells us that this is the perfect rule. Because I actually, like, part of me actually leans to thinking that he made the right decision and that, because if the third possession comes around, like, obviously you want to be the team with the ball that controls your own destiny. But after listening to, like, all the kind of NFL, and not just, like, analysts, but, like, guys that actually played in the league, like the fact that you give Patrick Mahomes that fourth down of knowing what he has to do, and in this case, he's like, I know I need to put up at least a field goal touchdown probably to actually win the game. Like I mean, we all know what he does on 3 downs. Like, and as it turns out, they needed definitely 1 4th down early in the drive on a 4th and 1, which I think was the RPO you mentioned earlier, right, Si?
Yep.
Maybe a second, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was just one. It might have just
I think
been
it was just one in overtime, but there was one in
right. There was one earlier.
Yeah.
So like it completely changes the game, and obviously they said they were, had they, I guess, needed the touchdown, they would have gone for 2 anyway, and they probably would have ran the play that they ran to win the game. I suspect was we got the ball at the 2 yard line. We need to score. This is the play we're running. They used it there because they didn't need it on 2-point conversion. So after listening to all of that, like it's tough to be on Shanahan's side with that decision. Maybe with any other quarterback on the other side. But it was a bad look for Kyle, and that's the second rough Super Bowl performance he's given.
It seems like you agree with him, Zach, so I'll let you go first.
Well, I see Evan's point. I mean, when you're not educating your team on the potential scenarios, then that's not great. But also, Kyle Shanahan's an offensive-minded guy. When you look at just his play calling in itself, it's incredible. So he'll be back. The team's going to get back. They're going to be. I think they're the actual favorites for winning the Super Bowl next year, despite what happened. So over the Ravens, over the Chiefs, over the Lions, and some of these other teams too. So they'll be fine. I'm not worried about Shanahan, and the Shanahan hate is a little bit ridiculous. I'll give you that. So
Yeah. I think the most egregious part was the players not knowing. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That I remember sending a text to you guys in the group and being like, "Is this a joke?" I was like, "How do you not know the rules when you're playing the Super Bowl?" That's crazy. Which also goes to show the Chiefs are just always prepared to win, because the only reason like they were so dead set on those rules is because they already know they're going to be in these situations. Like they're just used to it. Like that's the thing. So that's egregious. I won't disagree with that, but I don't think they should have known, but I don't think it made a difference. And the other thing I will say is everyone came out and ripped Kyle Shanahan a new one for that decision, right? But the flip side of that is if you give Mahomes the ball first, let's say Mahomes drives down, has a great possession, scores a touchdown. You come back, I don't know, maybe you go for 2, but if you don't, and then Mahomes gets the ball back again, or you lose going for 2, he's still going to get ripped a new one. Because the reality is you're playing Patrick Mahomes. And the moment that game went into overtime, I think everybody should have just accepted that Patrick Mahomes is winning, and that's the real take. Like, that has nothing to do with Kyle. That has to do with you should have won the game earlier, because whether you did it one way or the other, you're not beating Mahomes there. It's as simple as that. And because the flip side is you might give Mahomes 2 possessions. And so do you want to give Mahomes 2 possessions? Do you want to give him an extra down? Neither is an attractive option. You know what I mean? Like, and you also don't want Mahomes to go out there, score a touchdown first, and then put your team in a must-do touchdown scoring position as well. So it really isn't, when you're going against the GOAT, there's really not a good answer. Like, I can't rip him for that one.
I would agree if Patrick Mahomes didn't run from the coin toss to the sideline, celebrating their decision.
Anyway.
that was pretty hard, though. That was a hard video. That was hard.
He was like, what the ball? All right, let's give it to him. He was like
He's a dog like that, though. He's a dog.
That was hard, man. I'm with side. He's a dog, dude.
He's a dog. Yeah, he's a dog.
Yeah, but if the opposing team is celebrating your decisions like that, I think it's probably the wrong one, especially when it's guys that know ball like Pat and those boys do.
Yeah, true.
Anyways, we got to wrap this.
You want to see it happen in front of your eyes, but yeah, we'll move on. Okay, last but certainly not least, the last thing we want to do is our way too early prediction for our Super Bowl matchup and champion next year. We're doing it before the season starts, and of course, you're more than welcome to update your rankings when we have our pre-NFL season episode again, later this year in August or September. So I'll kick it off to you guys. Zach, go ahead. You have your inquisitive face on, so let's see what you think.
Give me Dallas versus Baltimore.
Love it. You went right back to Dallas after
Dallas with Saquon Barkley. Dallas with Saquon Barkley versus Baltimore.
I like that.
And that's the Super Bowl for next year.
Go ahead, E.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick against the Chiefs. I don't want to try and it just feels chalky, but so I'm gonna go Baltimore as well. NFC, I don't really love a lot of these teams, to be honest. Feels like San Francisco's I mean, I know I'm a hater on the Rams, but they could be a sneaky team if Stafford is still playing at a high level, because their team is so young. Like, if they choose to invest in it this year, and they started to get, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they start getting their picks back now after they blew them all for 4 straight years. I don't think it's going to happen maybe Green Bay is a sleeper, but San Francisco is hard to pick against.
So who you picking to win?
Baltimore.
Who you picking to win, Zach?
Yeah, give me Baltimore. I think Baltimore's due one for sure.
I love this because you guys are setting me up yet again for another year of smack talking. So I'm like, I'm really glad you didn't pick the
Son,
Chiefs.
it's February.
I know, bro. I know. I got to start tuning my horn early. You know how I operate. No. All jokes aside, I love that you guys pick Baltimore because then I can pick the Chiefs and not feel bad about it. I'm going back to the Chiefs. First time in NFL history. I think we're going to get a 3-time back-to-back Super Bowl champion. I think Mahomes is going to do it. And there's another GOAT legacy thing that he might be able to do. But along with that, I really want to pick the Packers, Evan. I really do because like they already have such a good foundation and they were this close to getting there this year. And I believe like they're still super young. They have people hurt like throughout the season if they can get healthy and they can still add. So I think they're right there. But I'm going to be the most boring person on the planet. I want to pick Chiefs over 49ers again. And those poor San Francisco fans are just going to have to watch their dreams get crushed by Mahomes back-to-back years for the third time in like 4 seasons. So that'll be sad for them, but I'm running it back. I'm boring, but I'm running it back. It's what
I don't know. I don't know how the Packers are going to figure out the defense. That like worries me. It needs so much help, and it's pretty old, if I'm not mistaken. Like
they were pretty close to beating the Niners this year with that defense. Jordan Love.
Bad weather was a huge factor in that game.
True.
But yeah, the offense is nasty. The Chargers could be sneaky too. I'm not. Now that they have a more competent coach in there, like we know Herbert's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. If they get Saquon, like with the receiving weapons, if they can finally be healthy on defense, I mean, I don't know what that situation is, but like that could be a sneaky one. And then Detroit's keeping Ben Johnson. They were very close to making the Super Bowl. I think they're in play there too. So
my hot take is I don't think Detroit is going to be as successful this year as last season. I don't see them doing it again personally. I'm sorry. I want to see them do it because I like their players. I like the coach. I like it all, but I just don't see it because of the fact that I don't know, man. It's just when I watch them, I feel like there's like they carried a lot of momentum, and I feel like something's missing. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's their inability to stop the pass game, whatever it is. I don't see them doing it again. But I will say I really like that Chargers one because if someone were to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, I think the team that could do it would be the Chargers more than anyone else. But with the division rivalry and them having like Herbert having had successful games against them in the past, it is funny though because like I think it's hilarious that the 49ers are favored again coming into next season without like it makes sense on paper, but it's funny to see them lose just now and then have the Chiefs like what second or third in the rankings again. So that's pretty interesting, but. It's gonna be a good season, guys. It's gonna be fun. I wonder what I wonder what CJ Stroud's gonna do. I wonder what some of these other young teams are gonna do in the playoffs next year. So
I was gonna say the other teams I think deserve mentioning would be Houston and Philly.
Houston's a little far away. Their defense.
I don't think they're gonna get. Yeah, I think they might take a slight step back, but then I think if Philly can fix their offensive coordinator mess, maybe
Houston isn't even gonna win our division, bro. Houston ain't even gonna win our division. Give me my division back. Give me my division back. You want to know why? Because the Houston Texans almost didn't win the division this year when we had Gardner Minshew, and we almost beat him out. And now they're playing the number 1 schedule with the new NFL scheduling, so they get all of the top teams this year, and we don't. So as long as we can win one of the two, which we did this year with Minshew, might I add, we're in a great spot. So let's see if Houston wins the division first.
AR-15 comes back. That's going to be exciting.
What's up?
Don't
yeah,
you're on
Jacksonville too.
Jacksonville, but you know what?
Jacksonville.
I'm kind of out on Jacksonville. Like I gave him a lot of credit this year. I'm out on Jacksonville. Like I don't trust Lawrence anymore. I don't they're not gonna have Ridley, so they're gonna get worse. I mean, Etienne was good. We'll see if he can repeat. Etienne had to have like an all-world season for them to be as good as they were, and we'll see if he can repeat that. I'm not a big Jacksonville.
Yeah, they need to fix the trenches, but you could make an argument that the argument you just made for Houston was kind of some of Jacksonville's issues and then some health issues. So,
and they do.
I think it'll be an interesting division though for once for a change after the last handful of years.
So we're gonna have to figure it out.
Cleveland too deserves a mention. I'm not. Exactly. I don't think Deshaun is a good quarterback at all. Is the problem, but Cleveland's got a really good roster.
Flacco season, baby.
The Jets, dude. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers coming back.
No, can I change my pick? Can I change my
Yes.
pick?
You can change
You
your
got,
pick.
what you
Bengals.
got, E?
Bengals, not Ravens.
I
Bengals.
like that. You know, Joey
Yeah.
B coming back going to be hot. He's going to be
I
hot.
actually was
that.
thinking about this earlier, so I'm definitely changing.
Okay.
I'm a big Bengals stan. I think they
I
need to do
like
some
that.
work on the rest of the roster too, but obviously Burrow back
Oh
if they
my
bring Higgins back.
Gosh, guys.
I like that a lot.
Chase Brown and Mixon together back there. Cool. Bengals.
Guys, the AFC
They're
is
gonna be
going
nasty.
to be we're talking Chiefs, Bills, Chargers with the new coaches, Bengals coming back, Ravens getting better. And like last year, they were like amazing. And then you got our division that has like random teams that are competing with CJ Stroud being amazing. The AFC is absolutely loaded, dude.
Dolphins.
Dolphins, even Denver had a great team last year. I wonder what they're going to do at quarterback, but I think they can make some noise too. It depends
Don't
on who
forget
they
the
get.
Steelers, who will always go 10-7.
This is very Mike Tomlin.
Hey, they're gonna find a quarterback though.
Zach, close us out with who's your starting quarterback going to be next year.
Oh, for Atlanta, Justin Fields.
I like it.
Justin Fields is going
I
to
hope
be
so.
the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be an incredible story. Georgia guy gets to come home, ball out for his hometown team, and Caleb Williams will be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, what we'll say. But that's it for us, guys. We appreciate you listening. If you're still listening, you guys might have a problem, and you guys might need some more time on your hands. But we love you guys anyways, and that was Mondays Down South.